Hello there, and welcome back to Deep Sleep Seas. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Perhaps you've had a long day filled with endless tasks, or maybe you're simply the kind of person who prefers drifting off to the gentle whisper of ocean stories, rather than counting imaginary sheep. Either way, you're exactly where you need to be. Let your shoulders drop just a little, feel your breathing slow and deepen, and allow yourself to simply be here, in this quiet moment. Tonight we're drifting into the world of sea lions, those remarkable creatures who move with such grace between the rhythm of waves and the warmth of sun-soaked rocks. In the vast expanse of the world's oceans, where waves roll endlessly and currents carry ancient songs, there exists a family of marine mammals that have captured human imagination for thousands of years. Sea lions belong to the family Otaridae, a name that means little to most but speaks volumes to those who study the intricate web of ocean life. They are what scientists call eared seals, distinguished from their cousins, the true seals, by the presence of small external ear flaps that give them a somewhat endearing appearance. These flaps are not merely decorative, they fold downward when the animals dive, preventing water from entering their ears as they descend into the cold depths where light fades and pressure builds. There are 6 living species of sea lions swimming through the world's waters today, each adapted to their particular corner of the Pacific Ocean and its surrounding seas. A 7th species, the Japanese sea lion, swam these waters until sometime in the middle of the last century, but has since vanished from the Earth entirely, a ghost of overhunting and habitat loss. The species that remain each tell their own story of survival, adaptation, and the endless dance between life and the sea. The California sea lion is perhaps the most familiar to many people. These are the performers you might have seen in zoos and marine parks. The quick learners with expressive faces who can balance balls on their noses and respond to complex commands. But in the wild, they are so much more than entertainers. They range along the western coast of North America, from the cool waters off British Columbia down through California and Mexico, with populations also established on the distant Galapagos Islands. Males can weigh up to 850 pounds and stretch to nearly 8 feet in length, while females are considerably smaller, typically reaching about 250 pounds and 6 feet long. Their coloring ranges from rich chocolate brown in males to lighter, almost golden brown in females, and when wet, their fur appears almost black, sleek and shining in the sunlight. Then there are the Steller sea lions, the giants of the family. Named after Georg Wilhelm Steller, the German naturalist who first described them in the 18th century, these magnificent animals are the largest of all sea lions. A fully grown male can weigh over 2,000 pounds and measure more than 10 feet from nose to tail. They possess thick necks covered in coarse mane-like fur that gives them their leonine appearance and their common name. These massive creatures inhabit the cold northern waters of the Pacific, from central California northward through Alaska, across the Bering Sea, and down along the eastern coast of Russia to Japan and Korea. Their fur ranges from light buff to reddish brown, and unlike their California cousins, they produce deep bellowing roars rather than sharp barks. The South American sea lion makes its home along the coastlines of South America, from northern Peru, southward around Cape Horn to the Falkland Islands. These sea lions can be recognized by their shorter, broader muzzles and the striking contrast between their dark brown bodies and yellowish-orange bellies. Males develop impressive manes around their heads and necks, giving them a regal appearance as they patrol their territories along rocky shores and sandy beaches. They are medium-sized among sea lions, with males weighing up to 700 pounds. In the waters surrounding Australia, the Australian sea lion has carved out its existence along the southern and western coasts. These animals are remarkable for several reasons, not least of which is their unusual breeding cycle. Unlike other sea lions that breed annually, Australian sea lions have an 18-month breeding interval, a pattern that is almost unique among mammals and remains something of a mystery to scientists. Males are striking in appearance, with very dark brown, almost black bodies contrasted by a creamy white or yellowish mane. They are less vocal than many of their relatives, possessing the most limited vocal repertoire of any sea lion species. The Galapagos sea lion is smaller than the California sea lion, to which it is closely related, and it lives exclusively in the unique ecosystem of the Galapagos Islands and occasionally along the nearby coast of Ecuador. These animals have adapted to the tropical conditions of their island home, where warm currents mix with cold upwellings to create rich feeding grounds. They are curious and relatively unafraid of humans, having evolved in an environment where large land predators were absent. Finally, There is the New Zealand sea lion, also known as Hooker's sea lion, which lives in the cold waters south of New Zealand, primarily breeding on the subantarctic Auckland Islands. These are the deepest divers of all sea lions, with females performing the longest and deepest dives of any otolid, sometimes reaching depths of nearly 600 meters. They are also the rarest of all sea lion species, with a population that has declined significantly in recent decades. Each of these species shares certain fundamental characteristics that define them as sea lions. They all possess external ear flaps, long muscular front flippers that they use to propel themselves through water, and the remarkable ability to rotate their hind flippers forward, allowing them to walk on all fours when on land. This ability distinguishes them from true seals, which must slide and wriggle across beaches and rocks. Sea lions have relatively short, coarse fur without the thick underfur that characterizes fur seals, and beneath this outer layer lies a substantial blanket of blubber that insulates them from the cold waters in which they spend so much of their lives. The evolutionary history of sea lions traces back millions of years to a time when their ancestors began the remarkable transition from land to sea. Fossil evidence suggests that the earliest otarids appeared around 12 million years ago in the northern Pacific. These ancient animals were descendants of bear-like carnivores that gradually adapted to a life spent increasingly in the water. Over millions of years, their bodies streamlined, their limbs transformed into flippers, and their senses adapted to detect prey in dark waters where vision becomes less useful than touch and sound. The family tree of sea lions diverged about 6 million years ago, with different lineages adapting to different regions and ecological niches. Some became fur seals, developing dense underfur for insulation and smaller body sizes suited to colder waters and different prey. Others became the sea lions we know today, larger and more versatile, capable of thriving in waters ranging from the tropics to the subarctic. Understanding the diversity among sea lion species reveals not just variation in size and color, but profound differences in behavior, ecology, and the challenges each species faces. Some live in small, scattered colonies, while others gather in massive rookeries of thousands. Some migrate thousands of miles each year, while others remain relatively close to their birthplace throughout their lives. Some face serious threats to their survival, while others have populations that are stable or even growing. Each species is a thread in the larger tapestry of ocean life, connected to countless other species through the complex web of predator and prey, competitor and companion. As we drift deeper into the lives of these animals, it becomes clear that sea lions are far more than the playful performers or barking colony members we might glimpse from a beach or pier. They are sophisticated marine predators with rich social lives, remarkable intelligence, and an ancient heritage that connects them to the very origins of mammalian life in the sea. Sea lions inhabit two worlds, moving with surprising grace between the solid realm of rock and sand and the fluid domain of ocean currents and tides. This dual existence has shaped their bodies in profound ways, creating creatures that are neither fully terrestrial nor entirely aquatic, but rather perfectly adapted to thrive in both environments. Understanding how they accomplish this requires looking closely at the remarkable anatomical features that make such a life possible. The most immediately obvious adaptation for aquatic life is the sea lion's streamlined body shape. Unlike their terrestrial ancestors, whose bodies were built for walking, running, and climbing, sea lions have evolved a fusiform body, torpedo-shaped and smooth, designed to slip through water with minimal resistance. Their heads taper smoothly into their thick necks, which merge seamlessly with their barrel-shaped chests and abdomens. There are no protruding ears, no jutting features to catch the water and slow them down. Even their reproductive organs and nipples are hidden in slits and folds when not in use. But perhaps the most dramatic transformation from their terrestrial ancestors is visible in their limbs. What were once legs ending in paws with claws have become flippers, flexible and powerful structures perfectly suited to underwater propulsion. The front flippers, which evolved from the forelimbs, are long and muscular, resembling wings more than legs. They contain the same bones found in human arms and hands, though modified beyond recognition. The humerus, radius, and ulna are all shortened and flattened, while the finger bones are elongated and connected by thick webbing of skin and connective tissue. These front flippers are the sea lion's primary means of propulsion through water. Unlike seals, which swim by undulating their bodies, and rear flippers, Sea lions swim by sweeping their long front flippers through the water in powerful strokes, pulling themselves forward like underwater birds in flight. They can sweep these flippers in various patterns, sometimes moving them together in a synchronized swimming motion, other times alternating them for more precise maneuvering. Watching a sea lion underwater is witnessing grace in motion, each movement fluid and purposeful, the flippers cutting through water with barely a disturbance. When swimming at speed, which they can maintain at 18 miles per hour for short bursts, sea lions adopt a technique called porpoising. They leap partially or completely out of the water while swimming, breaking the surface and re-entering in a smooth arc. This behavior serves multiple purposes. It allows them to breathe without slowing down significantly, reduces drag by briefly escaping the denser medium of water, and may help them spot prey or predators above the surface. During these leaps, you can appreciate the power in their bodies, the way their sleek forms cut through both air and water with equal ease. But sea lions must also leave the water. They give birth on land, rest on land, molt on land, and maintain their breeding territories on beaches and rocky shores. For this, they need the ability to move on solid ground, and here the rear flippers become crucial. Unlike true seals, whose rear flippers are permanently extended backward and fused together, sea lions can rotate their hind flippers forward underneath their bodies. This remarkable flexibility, unique to otarids, allows them to walk on all fours, using both front and rear flippers to support their weight and propel themselves forward. On land, a sea lion's gait is a kind of bounding walk, alternating their flippers to move surprisingly quickly across sand, rock, or even up steep slopes. They can climb onto pier platforms, navigate boulder fields, and even scale low cliffs. Young sea lions are particularly agile on land, capable of moving at impressive speeds when playing or fleeing from threats. Adult males, despite their enormous bulk, can move with startling quickness when motivated, though they tend to conserve energy by moving slowly when possible. The front flippers serve another crucial function beyond propulsion and locomotion. They are essential tools for thermoregulation, the ability to control body temperature. Sea lions face a constant challenge in this regard. The waters they inhabit are cold, often far colder than their preferred body temperature, while sunny beaches and rocks can become extremely hot. Their flippers, covered in relatively thin skin with blood vessels close to the surface, act as radiators that can be used to either warm or cool the body as needed. When a sea lion is cold, blood flow to the flippers is reduced through a network of specialized blood vessels that can constrict, minimizing heat loss to the environment. But when overheated, blood flow increases dramatically, and the sea lion will hold its flippers up in the air or wave them in the breeze, allowing heat to radiate away. This behavior, sometimes called rafting or sailing, when observed in the water, is a common sight in sea lion colonies. Animals rest with one or more flippers extended into the air, perfectly still except for the gentle rise and fall of breathing, using their flippers as solar panels in reverse, shedding excess heat. The skin itself is another remarkable adaptation. Beneath the coarse outer fur, which provides some protection and helps streamline the body, lies the true insulation, blubber. This layer of fat tissue varies in thickness depending on the season, the individual's health, and the water temperature where they live. Blubber serves multiple purposes. It insulates against cold water, stores energy that can be drawn upon during long fasts, provides buoyancy and cushions the body against impacts. A healthy sea lion maintains a blubber layer several inches thick, a living blanket that keeps their core temperature stable even in frigid northern waters. The sea lion's face, with its dog-like features and large, expressive eyes, is beautifully adapted for their dual lifestyle. Their eyes are particularly remarkable, capable of functioning well in both bright sunlight and in the dim blue twilight of deeper waters. The lens is nearly spherical, perfect for focusing in water where light behaves differently than in air. To compensate for the spherical lens when on land, their pupils can constrict to tiny pinpoints in bright light, improving their depth of field and allowing clear vision despite the lens shape designed for underwater use. But perhaps their most sensitive facial feature are their whiskers, properly called vibrissae. These are not simply hairs but sophisticated sensory organs. Each whisker is anchored in a follicle rich with nerve endings and surrounded by blood-filled tissues that can detect even the slightest movement or vibration. Sea lions have between 30 and 40 whiskers on each side of their face, arranged in rows on their muzzle. These whiskers are exquisitely sensitive to water movement, allowing sea lions to detect the wake of a fleeing fish from considerable distances, even in complete darkness. Researchers have discovered that sea lions can use their whiskers to track hydrodynamic trails left by swimming objects, following these invisible pathways through the water with remarkable accuracy. In experiments, blindfolded sea lions could still locate and follow the underwater trail of a miniature submarine purely through the information gathered by their whiskers. This ability becomes crucial when hunting in murky water or at depths where little light penetrates. The nostrils of a sea lion are another marvel of adaptation. Unlike human nostrils that remain open unless we consciously close them, sea lion nostrils are closed by default, sealed by special muscles that must be actively relaxed to open them for breathing. This default closed system means that sea lions never accidentally inhale water when diving. The nostrils only open when the animal surfaces and consciously chooses to breathe, and they snap shut automatically the moment the sea lion submerges again. Their ears, despite being external and seemingly vulnerable, are also well protected. The small ear flaps, which give otarids their name, can fold down tightly against the head when diving, and the ear canal itself can be closed by muscles to prevent water from entering. Inside the ear, the sea lion possesses remarkable hearing capabilities, both in air and underwater. They can detect a wide range of frequencies, from very low rumbling sounds to high-pitched squeals, and can determine the direction a sound is coming from with impressive accuracy. Moving through both air and water requires tremendous muscular power, and sea lions have it in abundance. Their shoulder and chest muscles, which power the sweeping strokes of their front flippers, are massively developed, giving bulls in particular their characteristic thick-necked, barrel-chested appearance. These muscles are not just large but also richly supplied with myoglobin, a protein that stores oxygen in muscle tissue and gives the meat its characteristically dark red color. This myoglobin acts as an oxygen reservoir during dives, allowing muscles to continue working even when oxygen from the lungs has been depleted. The skeleton of a sea lion reflects their dual lifestyle as well. Their bones are denser than those of purely terrestrial mammals, providing negative buoyancy that helps them dive more easily. At the same time, their bones are not as heavy as those of some deep-diving whales, because sea lions must still be able to move efficiently on land. It is a compromise, a middle ground that allows them to function in both worlds without being perfectly adapted to either. Every aspect of a sea lion's body, from the largest muscles to the tiniest blood vessels, reflects millions of years of evolution pushing these animals toward a life lived between sea and shore. They are creatures of boundaries, of transitions, equally at home hauled out on a sun-warmed rock or hunting in the cold darkness 50 meters down. This versatility, this ability to master two utterly different environments, is one of the sea lion's greatest strengths, allowing them to exploit resources and opportunities that creatures limited to a single realm cannot access. When a sea lion slips beneath the surface of the ocean, it enters a realm of increasing pressure, diminishing light, and no air to breathe. Yet they descend into this hostile environment routinely, sometimes hundreds of times each day, diving deep to find the prey that sustains them. The physiological adaptations that make this possible are among the most remarkable features of sea lion biology, a suite of changes and capabilities that allow them to function where most mammals would quickly perish. The dive begins with a breath, but unlike a human diver who takes the deepest breath possible before submerging, a sea lion often exhales before diving. This seems counterintuitive until you understand what happens to air-filled lungs under increasing water pressure. As a sea lion descends, the water pressure increases dramatically. At just 10 meters deep, the pressure has already doubled compared to the surface. At 50 meters, it has increased sixfold. This enormous pressure compresses any air spaces in the body, including the lungs. For years, scientists puzzled over how deep-diving marine mammals avoided decompression sickness, commonly known as the bends. In human divers, nitrogen from compressed air dissolves into the bloodstream under pressure, and if the diver ascends too quickly, this nitrogen forms bubbles in the blood and tissues, causing severe pain, paralysis, or even death. Yet sea lions and other diving mammals seemed immune to this danger, despite making repeated deep dives without any rest period. The solution, researchers discovered, lies in lung collapse. As a sea lion dives deeper, usually around 70 to 75 meters for California sea lions, the increasing pressure causes their lungs to completely collapse. The air is forced out of the alveoli, the tiny air sacs where gas exchange normally occurs, and pushed into the larger airways and trachea, where gas exchange cannot occur. This means that at depth, no more nitrogen can dissolve into the bloodstream, because there is no more gas exchange taking place. The sea lion is effectively diving on the oxygen already stored in its blood and muscles, not on the oxygen in its lungs. This might sound dangerous, as if the animal would run out of air, but sea lions have evolved multiple strategies for managing oxygen during dives. First, their blood contains far more oxygen-carrying hemoglobin than land mammals. The blood volume itself is also greater relative to body size. A sea lion's blood can carry much more oxygen per liter than human blood, providing a substantial reserve. Even more impressive is the myoglobin in their muscles. This protein, similar to hemoglobin but located in muscle tissue rather than blood, stores oxygen within the muscles themselves. Sea lion muscles are packed with myoglobin, giving their meat a very dark red, almost purple color. This stored oxygen can be drawn upon during a dive, allowing muscles to continue working aerobically even when the blood oxygen has been depleted. But carrying more oxygen is only half the solution. The other half is using less of it. When a sea lion dives, its heart rate drops dramatically, a phenomenon called bradycardia. A heart that might beat 80 times per minute at the surface might slow to just 15 or 20 beats per minute during a deep dive. This dramatic reduction in heart rate means that blood is circulating more slowly and less oxygen is being consumed by the heart itself. At the same time, blood flow is redistributed within the body through a process called peripheral vasoconstriction. Blood vessels leading to less vital organs, particularly the digestive system and kidneys, constrict dramatically, reducing blood flow to these areas to a trickle. Meanwhile, blood flow to the brain and heart, organs that must continue functioning, is maintained. This selective distribution of oxygen means that the available supply lasts much longer than it otherwise would. The digestive system in particular can be largely shut down during a dive. Digestion is metabolically expensive, consuming significant amounts of oxygen and energy. By reducing digestion rate by more than 50% during dives, sea lions conserve precious oxygen for more critical functions. This is one reason why sea lions often rest on shore after feeding, lying still for hours as they slowly digest their meals when oxygen is plentiful and free. With all these adaptations working together, sea lions can perform dives of impressive duration and depth. California sea lions typically dive for 8 to 20 minutes, reaching depths of 100 to 300 meters, though they are capable of diving much deeper when necessary. One California sea lion was recorded diving to nearly 600 meters. Stellar sea lions, being larger, can dive even deeper and longer, with some individuals reaching depths exceeding 1,500 meters and staying submerged for over 16 minutes. But the champions among sea lions are the New Zealand sea lions, particularly the females. These animals regularly perform dives lasting 4 to 5 minutes and reaching depths of 100 to 200 meters, but they are capable of much more. The deepest dive ever recorded for a New Zealand sea lion reached 597 meters, nearly 2,000 feet, where the pressure is approximately 60 times greater than at the surface. The longest dive lasted more than 14 minutes. These animals spend more than half their time at sea actually submerged, diving almost continuously during foraging trips that can last several days. Not all dives are deep dives, however. Sea lions also perform many shallow dives, particularly when feeding on prey near the surface or when traveling. These shallow dives might only take them down 10 or 20 meters for a minute or two. The animals seem to adjust their diving pattern based on where the prey is located and what type of prey they are pursuing. The pattern of diving also varies. Sea lions often perform what are called bout dives, a series of dives separated by short surface intervals, followed by a longer rest period. They might dive 20 or 30 times over the course of an hour, spending just a minute or two at the surface between dives, then rest for 10 or 15 minutes before beginning another bout. This pattern allows them to repeatedly access prey while managing the physiological stress of diving. One of the challenges sea lions face is the buildup of carbon dioxide. Unlike oxygen, which the body stores and carefully manages during a dive, carbon dioxide is a waste product of metabolism that builds up in the blood. In terrestrial mammals, rising carbon dioxide levels trigger an urgent need to breathe. Sea lions, however, have a much higher tolerance for carbon dioxide. They can function with blood carbon dioxide levels that would cause a human to panic and gasp for air. However, this tolerance is not unlimited. After multiple repeated dives, carbon dioxide levels can build to the point where the sea lion must spend extra time at the surface, breathing deeply to clear the accumulated gas from their system. This is one reason why very deep or very long dives are often followed by extended surface intervals. The animal needs time to restore oxygen levels and clear carbon dioxide before diving again. The physical effects of pressure at depth are also significant. At great depths, the water pressure can compress a sea lion's body, though their flexible ribcage and compressible lungs handle this far better than a rigid structure would. The blood vessels, being fluid-filled rather than air-filled, are largely unaffected by pressure changes. Even the eyes, with their gel-filled interior, maintain their shape and function at depth. Researchers studying diving behavior have found that sea lions show remarkable flexibility in their diving strategies. Some individuals specialize in benthic diving, spending most of their time near the seafloor, where they hunt for bottom-dwelling prey like flatfish, octopuses, and crustaceans. Others prefer pelagic diving, hunting in the water column for schooling fish and squid. Some individuals will switch strategies depending on conditions, time of year, or what prey is available. The decision of when to surface, when to dive again, and how deep to go is based on complex calculations of energy expenditure versus energy gain. A sea lion must balance the energy cost of diving with the energy gained from captured prey. Diving is expensive in terms of oxygen and energy, so the prey must be worth the effort. Sea lions have been observed abandoning dives when prey proves too difficult to catch, conserving their energy for better opportunities. Night diving presents its own challenges. In complete darkness, visual hunting becomes impossible, or at least much more difficult. This is where the sea lion's whiskers become crucial. Those sensitive vibrissae can detect the subtle water movements created by swimming prey, allowing the sea lion to hunt effectively even when they cannot see. Some sea lions actually prefer to hunt at night when certain prey species move higher in the water column and may be less alert. Young sea lions are not born with the ability to perform deep, long dives. This is a skill that develops over time as their bodies grow and mature. Pups learn to swim within their first few weeks of life, but initially they stay in shallow water near shore. As they grow, they gradually venture into deeper water and attempt longer dives. By their first year, they can dive to similar depths as adults, though they do so less frequently and for shorter durations. Their diving ability improves throughout their juvenile years as their bodies develop greater oxygen storage capacity and their muscles build up myoglobin stores. The deep ocean that sea lions explore on their dives is a foreign world to most of us. Pressure increases relentlessly with depth. Light fades through shades of blue to green to black. Temperature drops. Yet in this alien environment, sea lions hunt with confidence and skill, their bodies perfectly suited to the challenge. They are visitors from the surface world, ambassadors from the realm of air and light, but in the water they are completely at home, moving through the darkness with purpose and grace. Every dive is a journey to a place few mammals can go, and every return to the surface is a small triumph of physiology and adaptation. The rocky shores and sandy beaches where sea lions gather are far from quiet places. From a distance, a sea lion colony sounds like chaos, a cacophony of barks, roars, bleats, and wails that echo off cliffs and carry across the water. But within this apparent disorder lies meaning and structure. Sea lions are among the most vocal of all marine mammals, and their sounds serve crucial roles in communication, social bonding, and survival. The most characteristic sound of a sea lion, particularly the California sea lion, is the bark. It is a sharp, loud vocalization that sounds remarkably like a dog's bark, though deeper and more resonant. Males bark to establish and defend territories, to warn away rivals, and to signal their presence to females. The bark is not a single sound but a variable call that can be modified in rhythm, volume, pitch, and duration depending on context and intent. A male holding a territory might bark at a steady, repetitive pace, announcing his presence and his claim to that particular patch of beach or rock. If challenged by another male, the barking becomes faster, louder, more aggressive. The competing males might bark at each other for minutes or hours, sometimes without any physical contact, each trying to prove dominance through vocal stamina and intensity. These vocal battles can be exhausting. and the animal who gives up and moves away concedes defeat without a fight. The bark serves different purposes at different times. During the breeding season, male barking reaches its peak intensity. Every territorial male seems to be barking constantly, maintaining an acoustic boundary around his space. Once territories are established and the peak of breeding has passed, the barking decreases somewhat, though territorial males continue to bark when maintaining their boundaries or when new challenges appear. Interestingly, during non-breeding periods, the social dynamics shift, and with them the patterns of vocalization. Submissive males, who remain silent or quiet during the breeding season to avoid attracting aggression from territorial bulls, become more vocal when the breeding territories dissolve. It is as if the dominant male's monopoly on acoustic space is only maintained during the critical breeding period, and at other times of year, all males have more equal access to vocal expression. Female vocalizations are different from male vocalizations, but equally important. Females use a variety of sounds, including barks, but their barks tend to be higher in pitch than male barks. They also produce squeals, belches, growls, and other harsh, noisy sounds during aggressive interactions with other females, particularly when defending their pups from perceived threats. These threat vocalizations escalate in intensity. A mild threat might elicit a bark, while a more serious confrontation produces intense squeals and irregular growls. But the most important vocalization for females is what researchers call the pup attraction call, a loud, bawling sound that mothers use to locate their pups in crowded colonies. After a female returns from a foraging trip at sea, she arrives on the beach or rookery, where hundreds or even thousands of sea lions may be gathered. Her pup is somewhere in this mass of bodies, but where, she begins calling, broadcasting her pup attraction call across the colony. The remarkable thing about this call is that it is individually distinctive. Every female has her own unique vocal signature, a pattern of sounds that differs subtly but consistently from every other female's call. Think of it as a vocal fingerprint, recognizable to those who know what to listen for. Her pup, even from considerable distance, can recognize its mother's specific call among all the others. The pup responds with its own vocalization, the mother response call, which is also individually distinctive. The exchange continues, mother calling and pup responding, each following the sound of the other's voice. The female moves through the colony toward her pup's calls, while the pup moves toward its mother. Eventually they reunite, but the female is not yet satisfied. She sniffs the pup carefully, using scent to make a final confirmation of identity before allowing it to nurse. This combination of acoustic and olfactory recognition ensures that females very rarely make mistakes, nursing the wrong pup or rejecting their own. The process of imprinting this acoustic recognition begins immediately after birth. In the first few days of a pup's life, mother and pup spend considerable time together, vocalizing to each other frequently. The pup learns the sound of its mother's voice, memorizing every nuance. The mother similarly learns her pup's vocalizations. This investment of time in establishing recognition pays dividends throughout the nursing period, which may last a year or longer. Pups have their own vocal repertoire that expands as they grow. The first vocalization a newborn pup makes is a bleat, a lamb-like sound that can express alarm, hunger, or distress. This bleat is used as both an alarm call when the pup is frightened and as a threat when another animal comes too close. As pups grow and gain confidence, usually by about 6 weeks of age, they begin modifying their bleats, developing what will eventually become the adult-like bark. Young males, even as juveniles, practice adult male barking during play, rehearsing the vocalizations they will need when they eventually compete for territories and mates. Sea lions also vocalize underwater, though these sounds are less studied and less well understood than their above-water vocalizations. Underwater calls serve different functions than surface calls. They may be used to coordinate hunting when sea lions forage in groups, to maintain contact between individuals, or to communicate in ways we have not yet discovered. The underwater acoustic environment is quite different from the air environment, with sound traveling faster and farther in water than in air, opening up possibilities for long-distance communication that are not available on land. The production of these sounds involves complex muscular control of the larynx and respiratory system. Like humans, sea lions have vocal cords that vibrate as air passes over them, producing sound. The pitch, volume, and quality of the sound are modified by changing the tension in the vocal cords, the force of air passing over them, and the shape of the throat and mouth cavities. Sea lions have remarkable control over these factors, allowing them to produce their varied repertoire of sounds. Research into sea lion vocalizations has revealed something interesting about their development. Unlike many birds, whose songs are learned through imitation and practice, sea lions appear to acquire their basic vocal repertoire without much need for learning. Young sea lions develop their species-typical vocalizations even with minimal exposure to other sea lions. The basic bark, bleat, and other calls seem to be innate, programmed into their development rather than learned from others. However, while the basic structure of calls may be innate, there is evidence that some aspects of vocalization are refined through experience and exposure. The individually distinctive elements that allow mothers and pups to recognize each other, for instance, develop through their interactions. And sea lions can certainly learn to modify their vocalizations in response to training, as demonstrated by sea lions in human care, who learn to vocalize on command. The acoustic environment of a sea lion colony is layered with meaning. A human listening might hear only noise, but to a sea lion, every bark carries information. That bark over there is from a territorial male warning a challenger. This bark is from a mother seeking her pup. That series of bleats is from a young pup calling in distress. The roar rumbling across the colony is from a large bull asserting dominance. Each sound is a message, a piece of information, a thread in the complex social fabric of the colony. Researchers studying sea lion communication sometimes use playback experiments, recording vocalizations and then playing them back to sea lions to observe their responses. These experiments have shown that sea lions can indeed discriminate between individuals based on their calls. Males respond differently to the calls of other males versus the calls of females. Females respond more strongly to calls of their own pups than to calls of unfamiliar pups. These abilities are essential for maintaining social organization within the colony. The evolution of such complex vocal communication in sea lions likely relates to their amphibious lifestyle and colonial breeding. Unlike cetaceans, who can potentially communicate over vast distances in the ocean, sea lions gather in dense aggregations on land where visual communication is possible, but often obscured by the sheer number of bodies packed together. In this context, vocal communication becomes extremely valuable. A mother can call to her pup without needing to see it. A male can maintain his territory boundaries through vocalizations that carry beyond his immediate visual range. Pups can signal distress that brings their mothers quickly to their aid. The noisiness of sea lion colonies, far from being meaningless chaos, is actually a rich acoustic landscape full of information. It is a symphony of survival, every voice playing its part in the complex social life of these remarkable animals. To stand at the edge of a sea lion colony and hear the endless overlapping calls is to hear the sound of a society, vocal and vibrant, communicating in ways that are both foreign to us and somehow familiar. Animal voices speaking in a language we are only beginning to understand. As winter fades and spring arrives along the coasts where sea lions live, something ancient stirs in these animals, the seasonal rhythm of reproduction, repeated year after year across countless generations, begins again. The breeding cycle of sea lions is a complex dance of competition, choice, defense, and care, playing out on beaches and rocky shores across the Pacific Ocean. The cycle begins when adult males leave the sea and come ashore to establish territories. This typically happens in late spring, the timing varying slightly among species and locations, but following a predictable pattern. The males arrive first, ahead of the females, to claim the best spots. These territories are not random pieces of ground but carefully chosen locations that will determine reproductive success. The ideal territory has easy access to water, flat or gently sloping ground where females can comfortably rest, and protection from heavy surf or predators. Males choose their territories and then defend them vigorously against other males who might try to claim the same space. The competition can be intense. Large, experienced bulls in their prime have the best chance of securing and holding prime territories. Younger males, those in their first years of sexual maturity, usually cannot compete successfully with these established bulls. They linger on the periphery of the rookery, waiting for opportunities or attempting to sneak in when the territorial males are distracted. Territorial defense involves constant vigilance and frequent displays, A territorial bull must be ready at any moment to face a challenger. The displays used in defense are elaborate and ritualized. A threatened bull might shake his head vigorously, stare intently at the intruder, and vocalize loudly. If this does not convince the challenger to leave, the defense escalates. The bull might lunge toward his opponent, snapping at his flippers, or engage in actual fighting. Fights between large bulls can be violent and dangerous. The bulls rear up, bringing their full weight down on each other, biting at necks and flippers, wrestling with enormous power. The thick mane of coarse hair around a male Steller sea lion's neck likely provides some protection during these battles. Wounds are common, deep gashes and punctures that sometimes become infected. In rare cases, fights can be fatal, but most conflicts are settled through display and limited physical contact, with the less dominant male withdrawing before serious injury occurs. The energy demands on territorial males are extraordinary. During the peak of the breeding season, which may last several weeks to a couple of months depending on the species, territorial bulls eat very little or nothing at all. They cannot leave their territories to hunt without risking losing their position to a rival. Instead, they live off the thick layer of blubber they built up before coming ashore, burning through fat reserves at an astonishing rate. A large male might lose hundreds of pounds during the breeding season, emerging gaunt and exhausted when the territories finally dissolve. The females arrive somewhat later than the males, heavy with pregnancy. Most are carrying pups conceived the previous breeding season, pups that have been developing for about a year. The females haul out and give birth within a few days of arriving, usually producing a single pup. Twins are extremely rare. The birth itself is relatively quick, with the pup emerging tail first, usually within an hour of labor beginning. The newborn pup is well developed compared to many mammal young. Its eyes are open, it can vocalize immediately, and within 30 minutes it can shake itself, groom, scratch, and walk, albeit unsteadily. The pup is born with a dark coat of fur, chocolate brown or black depending on the species, providing some insulation until it develops sufficient blubber. This dark coloring gradually lightens over the first few months of life. In the first hours and days after birth, the mother and pup stay very close together. This is the critical imprinting period when they learn each other's vocalizations and scents. The mother is intensely protective during this time, aggressive toward any other animal that approaches too closely. She will bark, lunge, and even bite other females or juveniles who venture near her pup. This maternal aggression gradually diminishes as the pup grows stronger and more independent. The pup nurses frequently in the early days, stimulating milk production and gaining weight rapidly. The milk is extraordinarily rich, containing over 30% fat in the first months, much higher than human milk or cow's milk. This high fat content is essential for rapid pup growth and blubber development. A nursing pup can be heard from several meters away, making vigorous sucking sounds as it drinks. After about 2 weeks to a month, depending on the species, something remarkable happens. The female comes into estrus and is ready to mate again. This means that females who gave birth just weeks ago are now mating, ensuring that next year's pup is already on the way. This pattern, called postpartum estrus, is common among pinnipeds and allows females to produce a pup every year despite the long gestation period. The mating system of most sea lions is polygynous, meaning that successful males mate with multiple females, while many males do not mate at all. The territorial bulls attempt to gather as many females as possible into their territories, forming what are called harems. These harems can number from just 2 or 3 females in less successful territories, up to 20 or even 30 females, for the most dominant bulls in prime locations. The bulls guard their harems constantly, attempting to prevent the females from leaving and blocking other males from gaining access. However, the females are not entirely passive in this system. While territorial males try to control access and movement, females can and do choose to some extent. They may move between territories or position themselves in ways that indicate preference. The system is not as simple as dominant males having complete control. Female choice, expressed subtly through positioning and receptivity, plays a role in determining which males ultimately breed successfully. The mating itself is typically fairly brief. The male mounts the female from behind, and copulation lasts just a few minutes. Afterward, the female may move away, and the male returns to vigilance over his territory and harem. With multiple females in estrus at different times, A successful territorial male may mate many times over the course of the breeding season, though the physical demands of constant territorial defense and mating without eating are immense. After mating, females face a long year ahead of caring for their pups. The breeding season patterns differ somewhat among species, but a common pattern involves the female alternating between nursing her pup on land and foraging at sea. After the first few weeks with her newborn, the female will leave the pup on shore and go to sea to hunt. She might be gone for 1 to 5 days, traveling sometimes dozens or even hundreds of kilometers from the rookery to productive feeding areas. During her absence, the pup does not eat. It simply waits, burning through the energy reserves it built up from nursing. When the mother returns, the reunion process begins. She calls, her pup responds. They find each other in the crowded colony. She confirms identity through scent, and then allows the pup to nurse. The pup feeds vigorously for a day or two, replenishing its energy reserves, before the mother departs on another foraging trip. This pattern continues for months. The duration of nursing varies significantly among species. California sea lions typically wean their pups at 6 to 12 months of age, though some females have been observed nursing yearlings. Galapagos sea lions, living in warmer waters with year-round productivity, sometimes nurse their young for up to 3 years. Steller sea lion pups are weaned by 1 year but may continue to suckle occasionally for up to 3 years. This extended nursing allows young sea lions to gradually develop their hunting skills while still having the security of maternal nutrition. At around 2 months of age, pups begin trying to catch fish themselves. These early attempts are clumsy and largely unsuccessful, but they represent the beginning of learning the skills that will eventually sustain them. Young pups watch their mothers hunt and attempt to imitate the behaviors they observe. They play with caught prey, toss it in the air, dive after it, learning through play the movements they will need for effective hunting. Pups also learn from each other. Young sea lions are highly social and playful, spending much of their time when not nursing or sleeping engaged in games. They chase each other through shallow water, wrestle on the beach, play bite and play fight, all behaviors that are preparing them for the serious business of survival. Through this play, they develop swimming skills, build strength and coordination, and learn the social skills they will need as adults. One fascinating aspect of sea lion reproduction, shared by most pinnipeds, is delayed implantation. After the egg is fertilized during mating, it develops for just a short time before becoming a blastocyst, a hollow ball of cells. At this point, development pauses. The blastocyst floats freely in the uterus for about 3 months without implanting or continuing development. Only after this delay does the blastocyst finally implant in the uterine wall and resume development. This delay ensures that pups are born at the optimal time of year, when conditions are best for their survival. Without delayed implantation, pups conceived in June or July would be born in February or March, the worst time of year in terms of weather and food availability. The delay shifts birth forward to the following June, when conditions are favorable. The total gestation period including the delay is about 11 to 12 months, meaning that the interval between births is approximately 1 year. The reproductive strategy of Australian sea lions is unique among otariids. Rather than breeding annually, these animals have an 18-month breeding cycle. Females give birth, nurse their pups for up to 18 months, and then breed again. This extended cycle means that breeding is asynchronous within colonies, with different females giving birth at different times throughout the year, rather than during a single concentrated breeding season. Scientists are still unsure why Australian sea lions have evolved this unusual pattern, though it may relate to local oceanographic conditions and prey availability. The challenges facing breeding sea lions are numerous. Pups are vulnerable to predators, particularly sharks that patrol near colonies. Weather can be harsh, with storms and high surf sweeping pups from rocks or separating them from their mothers. Disease and parasites can decimate pup survival in some colonies. Human disturbance can cause females to abandon rookeries or disrupt nursing patterns. Climate change and oceanographic shifts can affect prey availability, forcing mothers to travel farther and stay away longer, leaving pups to fast for extended periods that can exceed their energy reserves. Yet despite these challenges, the breeding cycle has continued for millions of years, driving the persistence of sea lions across the Pacific. Each pup born represents a success, a small victory in the ongoing struggle of survival. Some will not survive their first year. Others will grow, mature, and eventually return to these same beaches to breed, continuing the ancient cycle. Beneath the sleek, whiskered face of a sea lion lies a brain of surprising complexity and power. Scientists have only recently begun to appreciate the cognitive capabilities of these marine mammals, and what they have discovered challenges our understanding of intelligence in the animal kingdom. Sea lions possess mental abilities that rival and sometimes exceed those of many primates, yet they evolved these capacities along an entirely different evolutionary path. The sea lion brain is large, comparable in size to a chimpanzee brain despite sea lions being considerably smaller in body size. This is remarkable because brain tissue is metabolically expensive, requiring enormous amounts of energy to maintain. Animals do not evolve large brains without significant selective pressure and advantages. The fact that sea lions independently evolved large brains suggests that their lifestyle and environment demanded enhanced cognitive abilities. Structurally, a sea lion brain is highly folded and convoluted, with a cortex that appears wrinkled and complex. This folding increases the surface area of the cerebral cortex without increasing skull size, allowing more neurons to be packed into the brain. The degree of cortical folding in sea lions is similar to that seen in cetaceans like dolphins and whales, another group that evolved large, complex brains for life in the ocean. When neuroscientists first began mapping the sea lion brain, they discovered remarkable specializations. The somatosensory cortex, the region responsible for processing touch information, contains a detailed map of the sea lion's whiskers. Each individual whisker on the sea lion's muzzle has a corresponding area in the brain devoted to processing the information that whisker detects. This is similar to how the human brain devotes large areas to processing information from our sensitive fingers. The whisker representation in the sea lion brain is strikingly similar to the whisker areas found in rats and mice, animals considered whisker specialists despite being rodents rather than marine mammals. This suggests that whisker sensitivity has evolved independently in different mammalian groups when it provides significant survival advantages. But the most impressive evidence of sea lion intelligence comes from behavioral studies. One California sea lion named Rio became famous in scientific circles for demonstrating an ability previously thought unique to humans. Researchers at the University of California, Santa Cruz taught Rio to understand equivalence relationships. She learned that if object A equals object B and object B equals object C, then object A equals object C. This might seem simple, but it represents logical reasoning of a type never before demonstrated in a non-human animal. Rio could apply this logical rule to novel situations, proving that she understood the underlying principle rather than simply memorizing specific combinations. This capacity for logical reasoning suggests that sea lions can form mental categories and understand relationships between categories. In Rio's case, she learned to group symbols together based on shared properties and could then use rules about those groupings to make inferences about objects she had never directly compared. This is abstract thinking, the ability to work with concepts rather than just concrete objects and experiences. Language comprehension studies with sea lions have also yielded impressive results. Several sea lions have been trained to respond to gestured commands using artificial sign language systems. These animals learn signs for objects like cones, balls, and frisbees, descriptors like large, small, white, and black, and actions like fetch, bring, and touch. Remarkably, the sea lions could understand and correctly respond to novel combinations of these signs that they had never seen before. If told to fetch the small white ball, they would do so, even though that specific combination of descriptors had never been used in training. This demonstrates genuine comprehension of combinatorial syntax, the ability to understand that meaning is created by combining symbols according to rules. Sea lions can also understand relational concepts. They have been trained to select objects that are similar to or different from sample objects, demonstrating the ability to grasp abstract relationships rather than just memorizing specific object identities. They can learn match-to-sample tasks, where they must select from several options, the one that matches a sample shown previously, and they can transfer this learning to novel objects, showing that they understand the general concept of matching rather than just specific object pairs. Memory in sea lions is also impressive. They can remember learned associations for years, even without regular practice. Sea lions trained on various tasks and then not tested for months or even years can often resume performing the tasks immediately, showing no sign of having forgotten. This long-term memory is essential for survival in the wild, where sea lions must remember the locations of productive foraging areas, the routes to reach them, and the techniques needed to capture different types of prey. Perhaps most surprising is a discovery about sea lion rhythmic ability. Scientists found that sea lions can synchronize their movements to a musical beat and can even adjust to tempo changes. One sea lion named Ronan learned to bob her head in time to music, matching the rhythm accurately and maintaining the beat even when the tempo was changed. This ability was thought to require brain circuits involved in vocal learning, which sea lions largely lack, yet somehow they can perform this complex sensory motor task. This suggests that the neural basis for rhythm perception and synchronization may be more widespread among mammals than previously believed. Sea lions also show evidence of self-control and delayed gratification. In experiments where they could choose between a smaller immediate reward or a larger delayed reward, sea lions often chose to wait for the larger reward, demonstrating the ability to inhibit impulse and plan for future gain. This capacity for self-control is considered a hallmark of higher cognitive function and is not widespread among animals. Working memory, the ability to hold and manipulate information in mind over short periods, has also been studied in sea lions. They can remember the locations of objects after delays, track multiple objects simultaneously, and update their mental representation as circumstances change. These working memory abilities are comparable to those seen in primates. Sea lions may even have some degree of metacognition, the ability to think about their own thinking. In experiments where sea lions were given difficult perceptual tasks and the option to decline trials when uncertain, they showed evidence of being able to assess their own uncertainty. When the task was difficult and they were likely to make a mistake, they were more likely to use the decline option, suggesting awareness of their own cognitive states. The social intelligence of sea lions is evident in their complex colony life. They must navigate intricate social hierarchies, recognize individuals, remember past interactions, and adjust their behavior accordingly. Males must assess the fighting ability of rivals. Females must recognize their own pups among hundreds of others. Young animals must learn their place in the social structure. All of this requires sophisticated social cognition. Interestingly, sea lions have not shown strong evidence of mirror self-recognition, an ability that is sometimes considered a marker of self-awareness. When presented with mirrors, sea lions show interest and investigate but do not demonstrate the self-directed behaviors that would indicate they recognize the reflection as themselves. This does not necessarily mean they lack self-awareness, as mirror self-recognition may not be relevant or important for animals whose primary sensory modality is not vision, but it does suggest that sea lion intelligence differs in some ways from the intelligence of primates and cetaceans who do pass mirror tests. The question of why sea lions evolved such impressive cognitive abilities remains open to debate. Their amphibious lifestyle, requiring them to function effectively in two very different environments, may have favored behavioral flexibility and learning ability. Their complex social structure demands sophisticated social intelligence. Their varied diet and hunting techniques may have selected for problem-solving skills and innovation. The need to navigate across vast distances to find patchy, shifting prey resources could have favored spatial memory and cognitive mapping abilities. What is clear is that intelligence in sea lions has evolved along a path distinct from primate intelligence or cetacean intelligence, yet converged on many similar capabilities. This convergent evolution of intelligence in multiple lineages suggests that there may be common problems in nature that favor cognitive complexity, and that brains can evolve solutions to these problems in different ways. The sea lion brain, organized differently from a primate brain but solving many of the same cognitive challenges, provides a window into the multiple evolutionary paths that can lead to intelligence. As research continues, we will undoubtedly discover more about the inner mental lives of sea lions. What do they think about when they rest on sun-warmed rocks? Do they remember individual foraging trips or specific prey items? Can they plan future hunts or anticipate seasonal changes? These questions remain largely unanswered, but the evidence already collected makes clear that sea lions are thinking, feeling, intelligent beings whose cognitive abilities have been dramatically underestimated. Sea lions are fundamentally social animals. From birth until death, they exist within a complex web of relationships with other members of their species. The beaches, rocks, and waters they inhabit are not simply physical spaces, but social landscapes, territories, and neutral grounds, conflict zones, and play areas, all mapped out through the interactions of hundreds or thousands of individuals. The most obvious social grouping is the colony itself, the aggregation of sea lions that gathers on particular beaches or rocky areas. These colonies can vary enormously in size. Some consist of just a handful of individuals, while others number in the thousands. The largest colonies, typically found at productive foraging areas during the breeding season, can contain tens of thousands of animals packed onto every available surface. Standing at the edge of such a colony is an overwhelming sensory experience. The constant barking and roaring, the smell of fish and guano, the sight of bodies pressed together in every available space, flippers waving, heads bobbing, young animals climbing over adults in endless restless movement. Within the colony exist various subgroups and social categories. During the breeding season, these categories are clearly defined by age, sex, and reproductive status. Territorial adult males hold the prime spaces, each surrounded by his harem of females and their pups. Younger males, not yet able to compete successfully for territories, cluster on the periphery or in less desirable areas. Juveniles of both sexes form their own loose groups, often playing together in the shallows or on beaches adjacent to the main colony. Non-breeding adult females may also be present, resting between foraging trips or not yet participating in breeding. The social hierarchy among males is established and maintained through displays of dominance. Size matters enormously. Larger males, typically those between 8 and 13 years old who have reached full physical maturity, dominate smaller and younger males. But size is not everything. Experience, confidence, and willingness to fight also determine status. Some males, despite impressive size, lack the aggression needed to hold territories against determined challengers. Others, perhaps slightly smaller, defend their positions ferociously and successfully because they are simply more committed to fighting. Male dominance relationships are displayed through posture and movement as well as through vocalizations. A dominant male moves confidently through space, head held high, chest thrust forward, barking to announce his presence. Subordinate males avoid eye contact with dominants, move aside when approached, and generally remain quiet. When a subordinate male must pass through or near a dominant male's territory, he often adopts a submissive posture, moving low and quickly, sometimes even crawling on his belly to demonstrate non-threatening intent. Actual fights between males, while dramatic, are relatively rare. Most conflicts are resolved through ritualized displays that allow both animals to assess each other's size, strength, and determination without the risk of serious injury. Two males facing off might open their mouths in threat displays, showing their large canine teeth. They bark aggressively, sometimes for many minutes, each trying to outlast the other. They might lunge and shake their heads, making themselves appear larger and more dangerous. Usually, one male backs down before physical contact is made, preserving his energy and avoiding injury for future opportunities. When fights do occur, they follow a somewhat predictable pattern. The males rear up on their hind flippers, bringing their heads and necks up off the ground, then crash down onto each other, trying to bite the opponent's neck and shoulders. They grapple, each trying to get a good grip with his teeth while preventing the opponent from doing the same. The fight might last seconds or minutes, with the combatants separating and then clashing again repeatedly. Blood is common. The thick skin and fat of the neck and shoulders provide some protection, but deep bites are painful and can become infected. Eventually, one male concedes, usually by turning away and moving off. The victor rarely pursues, content with having driven the rival from his territory. Female social relationships are less hierarchical than male relationships, but no less important. Females recognize each other individually and remember past interactions. Aggressive encounters between females are common, particularly when females are defending their pups. A female might bark at, lunge toward, or even bite another female who approaches her pup too closely, especially in the first days after birth when maternal protectiveness is at its peak. However, females also engage in more affiliative behaviors. They sometimes rest in physical contact with each other, bodies pressed together for warmth or simply for comfort. Groups of females might coordinate their foraging trips to some extent, departing and returning at similar times, perhaps benefiting from the safety of numbers or from social learning about where prey can be found. Young females establishing their first breeding territories often choose locations near their mothers or other familiar females, maintaining social bonds even as they mature. Mother-pup bonds are intense and endure for months or years. The recognition system between mothers and pups is remarkably sophisticated and very rarely fails. Even in colonies of thousands, females and pups find each other reliably. The bond is reinforced every time they reunite after the mother's foraging trips. The pup's behavior changes noticeably when its mother is present, becoming more relaxed and secure, nursing frequently and resting peacefully near her. When the mother is gone, the pup is more alert, more nervous, often remaining in a consistent location where the mother left it, making reunion easier. As pups grow and become more independent, typically in their second year of life, the mother-pup bond gradually weakens. The mother may begin to refuse nursing, swimming away when her large yearling attempts to suckle. Eventually the bond dissolves entirely, though it is not clear whether mothers and their grown offspring recognize each other in later years when they might encounter each other in the colony or at sea. Play behavior in young sea lions is elaborate and nearly constant. Pups and juveniles play with remarkable energy and creativity. They chase each other through tide pools and shallows, sometimes in groups of 3, 4, or more. They play fight, wrestling and biting gently, testing their strength against peers. They play with found objects, tossing kelp or pieces of wood in the air, diving after them, carrying them around like toys. They surf in waves, riding the surge up the beach, and then rushing back down with the water. All of this play serves serious purposes: developing physical coordination, practicing social interaction, learning to judge risks, and building the skills they will need as adults. Adult sea lions also sometimes engage in play, particularly juvenile and non-breeding adults. Groups might chase each other at high speed through the water, not hunting or fleeing but simply playing. They ride waves, leap from the water, and generally engage in behaviors that have no obvious immediate survival purpose but are likely important for maintaining physical fitness, social bonds, or simply psychological well-being. Sea lions interact with other species as well. They share haul-out space with harbor seals, northern elephant seals, and northern fur seals in some locations. These interactions are usually peaceful coexistence, each species largely ignoring the others except during breeding season when territorial sea lion bulls might chase intruders regardless of species. Conflicts with fur seals can be more intense, as fur seals are notably aggressive despite their smaller size and often win disputes with sea lions. In the water, sea lions must be aware of predators. Sharks, particularly great white sharks, are significant threats to sea lions in many parts of their range. Killer whales occasionally take sea lions as well. Sea lions show clear fear responses to the presence of these predators, sometimes abandoning feeding areas or haul-out sites when predators are detected. They may also mob potential threats, several individuals swimming together toward a shark in what appears to be harassment or information-gathering behavior, then fleeing rapidly if the shark shows interest. Sea lions have also learned to interact with human fishing activities. They are intelligent enough to recognize that fishing boats and fishing gear often mean easy meals. Sea lions sometimes follow fishing boats, stealing fish from nets or long lines. They learn to recognize the sounds of fish being released from fishing lines and swim toward those sounds to grab the fish before fishers can reel them in. This behavior causes conflict with fishers who see sea lions as competitors for valuable catch, but it also demonstrates the sea lion's remarkable ability to learn novel behaviors and exploit new opportunities. The social complexity of sea lion colonies represents millions of years of evolution favoring animals who could navigate intricate social landscapes. Every individual must constantly assess social contexts, recognize other individuals, remember past interactions, predict future behaviors, and adjust their own actions accordingly. This cognitive and social complexity makes sea lion colonies fascinating to observe and study, revealing layers of interaction and relationship that become more apparent the longer one watches. Beneath the seemingly carefree image of sea lions basking on sunny rocks or surfing in waves lies a harsher reality. These animals face numerous threats, both natural and human-caused, that challenge their survival and shape their lives in ways that are not always apparent to casual observers. Parasites are a constant burden for sea lions, particularly for young pups. In the Galapagos, a species of eye fluke called Philophthalmus salafii infects sea lion pups, burrowing under the eyelids and causing severe damage to the eyes. These parasites can lead to blindness, compromised vision, and secondary infections that can be fatal. Research has shown that the number of infectious parasites increases dramatically when sea surface temperatures rise, which means that climate change may be making this problem worse. Young pups are most vulnerable, with infections occurring as early as 3 weeks of age. A study of Galapagos sea lion pups found devastating impacts from these parasites. Of 91 pups studied over 2 years, only 21 survived. That is a mortality rate of more than 75%, far exceeding the normal mortality rate for sea lion pups. The parasites attacked pups before they reached reproductive age, meaning the population had no chance to grow, because deaths were outpacing births by an enormous margin. The impact of these tiny parasites on the sea lion population is profound and alarming. Australian sea lions face similar parasite problems, with hookworms infecting about 75% of pups. These parasites attach to the intestinal lining and feed on blood, causing anemia, weakness, and poor growth. Infected pups have significantly lower survival rates and slower growth than uninfected pups. Researchers in Australia have experimented with treating pups with anti-parasitic drugs and found that treated pups show much better growth and survival, demonstrating that these parasites are indeed causing the problems, not just correlating with them. New Zealand sea lions also suffer from hookworm infections in their pups. However, in New Zealand, researchers have taken the step of implementing treatment programs at some colonies, giving pups anti-parasitic medication. The results have been encouraging, with treated pups showing greatly improved survival rates. This suggests that active management might be able to reduce parasite impacts, though such programs are labor-intensive and cannot practically be applied to all colonies. Disease also threatens sea lions. Bacterial and viral infections can sweep through colonies, sometimes causing mass mortality events. Leptospirosis, a bacterial infection, has caused significant pup deaths in California sea lion colonies. Canine distemper virus, likely spread from domestic dogs, has infected sea lion populations as well. These diseases are particularly dangerous in colonies because the dense aggregations of animals allow infections to spread rapidly. Toxic algae blooms pose an insidious threat. Under certain conditions, microscopic algae in the ocean can reproduce explosively, forming blooms that color the water and sometimes produce toxins. One particularly dangerous toxin is domoic acid, produced by certain species of diatoms. This neurotoxin accumulates in small fish that eat the algae and then concentrates further in sea lions that eat the fish. Domoic acid causes seizures, brain damage, and can be fatal. California has experienced several severe harmful algal bloom events in recent decades that have killed or sickened hundreds of sea lions. Affected animals wash ashore having seizures, behaving strangely, or simply too weak to remain at sea. Many die. Those that survive often suffer permanent brain damage, with memory problems, impaired learning ability, and sometimes recurring seizures throughout their lives. Post-mortem examination of sea lions with chronic toxicosis shows dramatically altered brain structure, particularly in the hippocampus, a region critical for memory and spatial navigation. Climate change looms as an overarching threat, multiplier, worsening many existing problems and creating new ones. Rising ocean temperatures affect prey distribution, forcing sea lions to travel farther to find food or to hunt for different species. Warmer waters also favor the growth of harmful algae and increase parasite loads. Changes in ocean currents and productivity can reduce the availability of prey, particularly during El Niño events when warm water and reduced upwelling lead to significant declines in fish populations. California has experienced several dramatic sea lion stranding events, particularly of young pups, during and after El Niño events. In some years, hundreds or thousands of young sea lions wash ashore emaciated and dying. These strandings occur because mothers must travel farther from colonies to find sufficient prey during El Niño conditions. The longer foraging trips mean pups are left alone for extended periods without nursing. Young pups, unable to fast as long as adults, burn through their energy reserves and become too weak to survive. Some attempt to fish on their own before they are ready, venturing into the ocean in desperation, where they strand on beaches far from their colonies, too weak to swim back. Human activities pose direct threats as well. Entanglement in fishing gear is a serious problem. Sea lions can become caught in nets, trapped in crab pots, or tangled in loose fishing line. An entangled sea lion may drown if unable to surface to breathe, or it may swim with the gear attached for days or weeks, the lines cutting into flesh, compromising swimming ability and making feeding difficult or impossible. Many stranded sea lions examined by marine mammal rescue organizations show evidence of past or present entanglement. Shooting of sea lions, while illegal under the Marine Mammal Protection Act in the United States, still occurs occasionally. Some fishers, frustrated by sea lions damaging catch or equipment, illegally shoot animals. These deaths often go unreported and the perpetrators unprosecuted, making it difficult to know the full extent of this problem. Disturbance from human activities can also harm sea lions, particularly during the breeding season. When people approach rookeries too closely, sea lions may flee into the water in panic. Pregnant females might abort, mothers might become separated from their pups, and territorial males might abandon their territories. Even well-meaning wildlife observers can cause problems if they do not maintain appropriate distances. The presence of unleashed dogs on beaches near sea lion colonies is especially problematic, as sea lions perceive dogs as serious threats and will flee or act aggressively. Pollution adds another layer of threat. Sea lions, as top predators, accumulate contaminants from their prey. Heavy metals like mercury, persistent organic pollutants like PCBs, and plastic debris all affect sea lions. Microplastics have been found in sea lion tissues, though the full health impacts of these are still being studied. Larger plastic debris can be ingested or cause entanglement. The classic image of a sea lion with a plastic six-pack ring cutting into its neck is not just a symbol but a real and preventable tragedy that continues to occur. Some sea lion species face more severe threats than others. The stellar sea lion population, particularly the western Alaska stock, has declined dramatically since the middle of the 20th century. In the 1950s and 60s, the population was estimated at over 140,000 animals. By the 1990s, it had dropped to perhaps 30,000, a decline of nearly 80%. The causes of this decline are complex and still debated, but likely involve changes in prey availability due to fishing pressure and climate shifts, pollution, disease, and predation. The western stock was listed as endangered in 1997 and remains so today, though there are recent signs of stabilization and even modest recovery in some areas. New Zealand sea lions are also of serious conservation concern. The entire population is estimated at only around 12,000 individuals, making them the rarest sea lion species. They face threats from fisheries bycatch, with dozens killed annually in trawl nets. Disease has caused significant pup mortality at some colonies. They are also vulnerable simply because of their small population size. A single catastrophic event could potentially threaten the entire species. In contrast, California sea lion populations have been growing since the Marine Mammal Protection Act came into effect in the 1970s. The United States population is now estimated at over 250,000 animals and appears to be approaching or perhaps exceeding the ecosystem's carrying capacity. This success story demonstrates what effective legal protection and management can achieve. However, this growing population also leads to increased conflicts with human activities and challenges in managing those conflicts. Australian sea lions, though not immediately threatened with extinction, have a fragmented population structure and unusual breeding cycle that make them vulnerable to local declines. Because they do not migrate long distances, and because breeding is asynchronous, each colony is somewhat isolated demographically. A problem affecting one colony cannot be quickly offset by immigration from other colonies. Understanding the full range of threats sea lions face is essential for effective conservation. Each threat requires different management approaches. Parasite and disease problems might be addressed through medical intervention or habitat management. Harmful algal blooms need to be monitored and potentially mitigated through pollution control. Climate change requires global action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Entanglement demands better fishing gear design and derelict gear removal. Disturbance requires education and enforcement of viewing regulations. The challenges sea lions face are not insurmountable, but neither are they simple. These animals have persisted for millions of years, adapting to changing conditions and recovering from setbacks. But the pace and scale of current human-caused changes may exceed their capacity to adapt. Whether future generations will still be able to watch sea lions basking on sunny rocks or leaping through waves depends on the actions we take now to address the hidden challenges these remarkable animals face. And so we reach the end of this journey through the hidden lives of sea lions, these remarkable creatures who move between two worlds with such grace and power. We have drifted through their days and nights, from the moment pups take their first breath on sun-warmed rocks to the deep dives into cold darkness where they hunt with whiskers and instinct. We have listened to their barks and roars echoing across crowded colonies, watched their territorial displays and tender reunions, and glimpsed the surprising intelligence behind those large, expressive eyes. Sea lions are not simple animals leading simple lives. They are complex, intelligent social beings who navigate intricate relationships and overcome extraordinary challenges. They are mothers who find their young among thousands through voice and scent alone. They are divers who descend to depths where pressure would crush us, whose bodies collapse and restart with every dive. They are learners who can solve problems, understand logic, and perhaps even dance to rhythms we create. They are also vulnerable, facing threats both ancient and new. Parasites and predators have always been part of their world, but toxic algae blooms intensified by warming oceans, entanglement in our fishing gear, and the disruption of their food supplies by climate change are challenges for which millions of years of evolution may not have prepared them. Their survival depends not just on their remarkable adaptations, but on our willingness to share the ocean and shorelines with them, to protect the places they need and minimize the harm we cause. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, sea lions continue their ancient patterns. Somewhere in the Pacific, a mother is returning from days at sea, calling for the pup she knows by voice alone. Somewhere else, a territorial bull is barking into the darkness, defending his ground. Young sea lions play in moonlit shallows, practicing the skills they will need to survive. And deep beneath the surface, a sea lion swims through black water, following currents and instincts that have guided its kind for millions of years. Hunting in darkness, perfectly adapted, perfectly at home. These animals, who seem so playful and carefree to us, live rich lives full of challenge and complexity, joy and struggle, ancient rhythms and modern threats. They are part of the ocean's great tapestry, threads woven through ecosystems we are only beginning to understand. May their barking continue to echo from rocky shores for countless generations to come. May they continue to leap through waves and sun themselves on warm afternoons. May we learn to be better neighbors to these remarkable beings who ask only for fish to eat and shores to rest upon. Rest well tonight, knowing that the ocean is vast, that waves continue their endless rhythm, and that sea lions, for now at least, still swim through their waters and bark from their rocks, living their secret, complex, beautiful lives beneath and beside the surface we see. Good night.